I thought I had seen it all as a firefighter. Until that night when I heard the barking inside the flames. The call came in at 2:37 a.m. Structure fire on Maple Street, two-story residential. Possible occupants still inside. We were on scene within 4 minutes, our rig's lights painting the neighborhood in flashes of red and white. The pre-dawn air carried the acrid scent of burning wood and melting plastic long before we rounded the corner. My name is Jack Callahan, 12 years with Engine Company 17, and that night would test everything I knew about courage. "Holy hell," muttered Rodriguez, my partner, as we pulled up. Flames had already breached the roof, sending columns of orange fury into the night sky. The neighbors were gathered on the sidewalk in their pajamas, faces illuminated by the inferno. Captain Rivera barked orders as we deployed. "Matthews and Diaz, take the south entrance. Callahan and Rodriguez, search and rescue through the front. Move!" We masked up and checked our SCBAs, 600 PSI, 20 minutes of air, give or take. The thermal imaging camera was secured to my helmet as Rodriguez and I approached the front door, the intense heat greeting us like an angry beast. "Fire department, call out!" I shouted into the crackling darkness, but only the roar of the fire answered back. We pushed inside, staying low, sweeping methodically through the living room. Visibility was near zero, just a wall of gray-black smoke illuminated by dancing orange embers. The TIC showed hotspots growing across the ceiling. We had minutes, maybe less, before the second floor collapsed. That's when I heard it. A desperate, muffled bark from somewhere deeper in the house. I tapped Rodriguez's shoulder. "You hear that?" Another bark, more frantic this time. "Dispatch, this is Callahan. We've got a possible K9 still inside. First floor, moving toward the rear of the structure." "Copy that, Callahan." "Be advised, structural integrity is compromised. Chief says you've got 5 minutes, then you pull out. No exceptions." I had two choices: walk away or go in and save a life. The heat intensified as we moved deeper into the house. The ceiling groaned above us, a sound every firefighter knows means trouble. My breath echoed inside my mask, each inhale a reminder of my dwindling air supply. 450 PSI. We reached the kitchen where the flames had claimed half the room. The barking was clearer now, coming from behind a partially collapsed section of cabinetry that had fallen against the back door. Rodriguez's voice crackled in my ear. "Jack, that doorway's not gonna hold much longer." The tick showed a small heat signature behind the debris. Alive, but fading, not human-sized. The dog. "We gotta move this," I said, already stepping forward. A section of the ceiling crashed down mere feet away, sending up a plume of embers. Rodriguez yanked me back as a support beam missed my helmet by inches. "That's it, we're out of time," he shouted, but I could still hear the dog, its barks weakening to desperate whimpers. "Give me 60 seconds, I said, disconnecting my tether from Rodriguez. "Count it out, then I'm right behind you." "Callahan, negative! We're both leaving now." I ignored him, pushing forward toward the pile of burning debris. Through a gap, I caught my first glimpse. A golden retriever, maybe 2 years old, pressed against the wall, eyes wide with terror. "Hey, buddy," I whispered, though he couldn't hear me through the mask. "I'm getting you out of here." I wedged my Halligan tool into the debris and heaved. The muscles in my back screamed as the cabinet shifted slightly. Not enough. The dog's eyes locked with mine, pleading. 300 PSI. I heard Rivera's voice over the radio. "All units, evacuate immediately! Roof collapse imminent! I repeat, all units evacuate now!" Rodriguez was yelling something, but his voice faded as he retreated toward the front door. Protocol when your partner goes rogue. He'd get backup, but we didn't have time for backup. I braced my boots against the floor and threw everything I had into moving that cabinet. With a groan of splintering wood, it shifted enough to create a space. The dog tried to move, but yelped in pain. Its hind leg was pinned under a smaller piece of debris. "Come on, buddy," I grunted, reaching through the gap. The heat was unbearable now, my gear approaching its thermal limits. I felt the dog's fur, matted with sweat or blood, I couldn't tell. 200 PSI. My low air alarm chirped its warning as I carefully freed the dog's leg and pulled him into my arms. He was heavier than he looked, maybe 70 pounds, but adrenaline made him feel as light as a pillow. He trembled against my chest, his breathing rapid and shallow. "I got you," I whispered. "I got you now." A thunderous crack echoed through the house. the sound of structural failure. We were out of time. I clutched the dog tightly and turned toward where I thought the front door should be. But the smoke had thickened, disorienting me. The TIC showed a wall of heat blocking our original path, 150 psi. I dropped to my knees, crawling with one arm while cradling the dog with the other. He wasn't whimpering anymore, and that scared me more than the flames. "Stay with me, buddy," I gasped. My breathing labored as I followed the wall, hoping to find a window, a door, any way out. The floor beneath us grew searingly hot. We were running out of options. Then, through the smoke, a miracle, a faint glow from a window in what looked like a study or den. I crawled toward it, my muscles burning from exhaustion, 100 psi. The window was partially blocked by a bookshelf that had fallen against it. With my remaining strength, I smashed the glass with my Halligan, clearing the jagged edges with my gloved hand. "Fire ground, this is Callahan!" I rasped into my radio. "Coming out south side window with civilian rescue!" The dog stirred in my arms as fresh air hit us. I cradled him close and climbed through the window just as a deafening crash announced the second floor's collapse into the space we'd occupied seconds earlier. We tumbled onto the lawn, rolling away from the building. Hands grabbed me, pulled me farther from the inferno. Someone took the dog from my arms as my mask was removed. Cool oxygen hit my face as the paramedics swarmed around us. "The dog," I coughed, trying to sit up. "Is he—" "Easy, Jack." It was Rodriguez, his face streaked with soot. "They're working on him." I turned my head to see another paramedic placing an oxygen mask over the dog's muzzle. His golden chest rose and fell slightly. Alive. I had seconds to decide. Give up or keep fighting. In that burning kitchen, I made my choice. And so did he. They named him Phoenix. That's what the shelter staff called him after the paramedics stabilized him and took him for emergency veterinary care. 3 days later, when I visited him at the county animal shelter, his chart simply read, Phoenix, male, approximately. 2 years, rescued from Maple Street fire. His right hind leg was wrapped in a blue cast and patches of his golden fur had been shaved to treat minor burns, but his eyes were bright and his tail thumped against the kennel floor when I approached. "Hey, buddy," I said, kneeling outside his enclosure. "Remember me?" Phoenix limped to the kennel door, whining softly, his nose pressed against the chain link. The shelter manager, a woman named Diane with kind eyes and silver-streaked hair, stood beside me. "He hasn't responded like that to anyone else. It's like he knows." "Any word on his owners?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. The house had belonged to an elderly man who'd been away visiting his daughter. The dog was supposed to be at a neighbor's, but had somehow gotten back into the house. "The owner can't take him back," Diane said. "He's moving to assisted living after losing the house. We've been calling around, but—" Phoenix licked my fingers through the fence, his eyes never leaving mine. I didn't just save him. Maybe he was meant to save me too. The paperwork took less than an hour. My apartment building allowed pets, and Captain Rivera had already approved my 2 days of administrative leave, though he chewed me out properly for breaking protocol before adding, "Good job, Callahan. Don't ever do it again." That evening, Phoenix hobbled into my apartment, sniffing cautiously at his new surroundings. I'd stopped at the pet store and probably bought more supplies than any single dog could need. Beds, toys, premium food, treats, even a ridiculous firefighter costume that I swore I purchased ironically. "Home sweet home, Phoenix," I said, watching as he carefully explored the living room. "It's not much, but it's ours." That first night, despite having a plush dog bed by the couch, Phoenix dragged himself into my bedroom and settled with a sigh next to my bed. I reached down and gently ran my hand over his head. "Yeah, I get it," I whispered. "Bad dreams are better when you're not alone." 6 months later, Phoenix's leg had healed completely. The shelter veterinarian had warned there might be a permanent limp, but you'd never know it watching him race along the shoreline at the dog beach, golden fur gleaming in the sunlight. I tossed a tennis ball, watching him bound after it with unrestrained joy. My phone buzzed with a text from Rodriguez. "Still bringing the wonder dog to the station, BBQ?" Phoenix returned, dropping the soggy ball at my feet, his mouth open in what looked remarkably like a smile. "What do you think, Phoenix? Ready to meet the whole crew officially?" He barked once, tail wagging furiously. That night, surrounded by my fellow firefighters and their families, With Phoenix accepting pets and treats from everyone, Captain Rivera raised his glass. To Callahan and Phoenix, proof that the lives we save sometimes save us right back. Later, as Phoenix dozed at my feet beneath the twinkling string lights of the station's back patio, I reflected on what that fire had taught me. Sometimes in the darkest moments, we find the ones who need us most. And sometimes, what looks like the end is actually just the beginning. Some heroes wear badges, others have paws. And the bravest among us know when to reach through the flames, not just to save a life, but to change one forever. The On.